Hello, everybody, and welcome to Rise of Drekis, Chapter 4, Humanity, with our single player, Jeff. How are you doing, Jeff?
Wow, hello. Great to be here. How are you?
I am good. Are you ready to play some Rise of Drekis?
I am super ready to make waves and we'll see what happens here.
Now, for the people who didn't get a chance to watch the character creation stream, do you want to tell us a little bit about who you are and what your deal is?
Sure. Let's tag team this one. We'll both fill in some details. So my character is Nicholas, the paladin of Malchus. Malchus is the god of chaos and whatnot. And to embrace the god of chaos, we randomized which god I was going to follow. And it ended up Malchus, so it was fate.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I've been set on a mission from Malchus. And what is that, Neal?
Well, that mission is this elven forest over here. This whole section that I'm just going to show you right here. This biggest forest on this map is all the elven woods. And after the war for Arcadia, that what the little intro showed you, the elves just kind of disappeared. They just fled from their ancestral homelands without saying goodbye to anybody. And
Wow,
no one
awfully
really,
mean of them.
right. No one really knows why they left. And in the years since the war, it's been like 5 years now, there have been some forays into the woods to try and explore what's going on, maybe harvest some of those resources. It's taken a little while because, after the war, everyone was destroyed. People needed to rebuild. There were like kingdoms that were recently conquered that needed to be consolidated. It took a little while, especially with, medieval tech. But once people started going into those woods, like more than this little section down here, people started disappearing. And eventually, it was decided that a more ambitious expedition needed to be made to go into those woods. And something bad happened to those people too. And while the Empire is sitting around thinking about like, well, how are we going to deal with this? One day, this paladin pops up, literally out of nowhere. I do believe you were just an ordinary cleric once upon a time. And
That's right.
And then what happened? How did you go from being just a regular old cleric to a full-fledged paladin?
Well, it's one of those callings. I was a cleric of Malchus, but Malchus decided to grace me, more directly into my mind and essentially declared me one of his, or perhaps even the arms arms and feet he was going to use to kind of walk around the world.
Yeah. So now this paladin shows up. He's got 3 major loyalties here. First off, he's a paladin of Malchus, so he's got to do what his god says. His god says, go to the forest and cleanse the evil. We'll talk about the evil in a moment. You got to do it. So you also got an empress that you have to obey because you're the only paladin on the continent. But you're still just also a regular person at the end of the day, and you still owe your empress allegiance. And you also have a king. Your king is the guy from the Crownhold area over here. His name is King Imric McGarry. And your empress is way down
generous
here.
McGarry. He's given me quite a starting item.
Yes, and the empress is down here in Wicthron Renta. The starting item, I don't think the king knew he was giving this to you, but when a guy shows up on your steps claiming to be a paladin, and you've got no proof of this, and you're like, sure, you can have one of my like spare magic maces that are just lying around. Lo and behold, the paladin's drawn to one, picks it up, and in his hands, it is a Holy Avenger +5 mace. That does +5 to hit, +5 to damage, and an additional +5 to chaotic evil. And in this sense, chaotic evil, our alignment system's a little, we don't abide by it quite in the same way, but for the sorts of things we'll be coming up against, we'll be seeing a lot of that. And you get some orders. You're going to go to the forest, you're going to cleanse this evil. Your king says, hey, I can help you with this. Here's some items, here's some equipment, here's supplies. I'm going to introduce you to the Empress. But also as you go through this area, I want you to know that I'm the biggest mage around, so any magic items you find should come to me for identification. And also, I've given you a whole bunch of stuff, so, tribute. And the Empress is like, hey, you're going into that forest? Well, that's a coincidence. My people have been going into that forest trying to figure out what happened to the elves and maybe retrieve some lost loot, maybe harvest those elven trees for their excellent quality. The Empire needs to like go overseas and do some exploring, and they need ships, and they've got enemies, and they've got wars to fight, and they need good, strong ships, and the heartwood of the elven forest would make for the best timbers. But everyone that's gone in there has had problems. Some have died. Others have been driven back and report seeing unusual things like living woods, something that resembles undead, sort of monstrous creations, talking mud, slimes or oozes, zombies. And when you send random peasants into a dark, spooky elven forest, they're going to come out with a bunch of tales. But considering they've been driven out again and again, and lots of people have gone missing, there might actually be something to this. So our party of one, is starting in the town of Roxas. It is one of the very few free cities in the world. It owes allegiances to nobody. It is primarily dwarven, 60% dwarven. And they're all in one big clan, a newly declared clan, the dwarves of Roxas, all bonded into one. They are led by matriarch Lithos, and even though they're independent, Empire of Drekis is the big guy in town, and they want to be friends with them. They want, you can't just fight every empire. It's best to be friends with people, And so here you are in Roxas, using this as your starting point.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that we really need to know about Roxas, other than that they are a clannish-based, not quite matriarchy or patriarchy, just, whoever's the head of the clan leads the entire city. And it's mostly dwarves and halflings, and then just a few scattered other things around. And their one big major feature is this huge tower in the area, which is said to be able to ward off dragons. Not that we're going to run into any dragons in this campaign, but just as a point of reference, there's a large tower that is supposed to, it's not just dragons, it's supposed to cause some sort of irritation to all lizard-like creatures. It's like, the sound of mosquitoes or a really high-pitched whine. You just don't want to get near it. So there's no lizard-like things anywhere near Roxas. And you, Nicholas, tell us a little about yourself. What did you do once upon a time? Who were you before you were a paladin?
Yeah, so I grew up in Mystria. Is that the right way to say that?
It is.
Yes, Mystria. And I did so just as the heat of the Mystrian versus Drekisian war. So I helped out the people by being a cleric, healing the wounded soldiers which came back, calming the citizenry. And I did so while being a cleric of Malchus. So I find it important to spread the teachings of Malchus, not as he has a little bit of a bad rep as a frivolous, chaotic god, but I'm here to make sure that everyone knows he's on their side.
Mm-hmm. In addition to being the god of chaos, which is, everyone likes to talk about the chaos aspect, but he's a complex, multidimensional figure. What other sorts of domains or protection things does Malchus have?
He's the god of humans as well. So, if you're a human, that's a good sign for you. But that doesn't just necessarily mean that Malchus is strictly on your side, because he loves giving everyone, including humans, tests.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes he may do inexplicably cruel things just in order to make sure that in the long term, humanity is, for the better.
Right. He likes to think of things, chaos is a way to get rid of the weak so the great people can rise. You need a little bit of turbulence to make the cream rise to the top.
Yes, and while that's true, Nicholas is kind of the public-facing image of Malchus, and he knows that may not be too popular, so Nicholas will try to not be speaking too much about the frivolousness of
Mm-hmm.
Malchus, but more of his compassionate side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's a complex, multidimensional god. He's got all sorts of things going on for him. He's not just random murdering. He's not the god of murder hobos. Let's also talk about your gear, because in addition to that +5 Holy Avenger mace, you also ended up picking up or being gifted a bunch of other good stuff, right? What did you get gifted by the Empress?
I am decked out in a full plate regalia here. So while that does make Nicholas a little bit slower, because it is heavy to carry around the 60-pound full plate, as well as the 16-pound magical shield, which can transform into a larger shield wall. It's worth it for being the only paladin solo traveling out here. The protection those offer are, unparalleled. As well, I've gotten a bunch of holy water, because who knows what evil needs to be cleansed out here. A bunch of potions to make sure that if I do get wounded, that I can get healed back up.
Potion of gaseous form, one of those. 7 or a scroll with 7 speak with dead spells on it. A rope of climbing, a magical rope that's like 60 feet long that can knot itself, and it's kind of thin, but it's super strong, and it can unknot itself, and it can snake up things and tie to them. Yeah.
And that's all in a nice bag of holding, because otherwise, how else could I carry all of this?
Excellent. Oh, and also, you're only a 1st level paladin, 3rd level cleric. So all of this great magical equipment decked out on the little bitty 1st level paladin.
That's right. In 2nd edition, you can only be when you multi-class, you're basically the 1st class until you reach the equal level. So I'm a 1st level paladin.
Yay! But you did get to keep your cleric HP, so you do start off with a little more HP than in, 23 is a pretty good starting point.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to start our campaign on September 1st, 1520 in Roxas. You've been here for a little time. You traveled up from the south. You brought your gear. You've recently rebought rations, some water skins, tents, sleeping bag, or what do you call it? Sleeping pads and whatnot.
Nicholas is a pretty social person, so he will, during his days here in preparation for journey out, have mingled with the dwarven crowd and just hung out in general bars, made himself public.
Yeah. Well, it's been a pretty quiet place. They've been very receptive to a paladin, like everyone is very receptive to a paladin. No one wants to get on the paladin's bad side, so everybody's your friend to your face. Yeah.
Yes, and I'm their friend to their face.
Yeah, it's a great system. Everyone's just getting along. Okay. Is there anything you would like to say or do or ask of the dwarves in Roxas? Any information you would like to gather? Or are we just going to set off into the forest and go take a look at what this evil is?
I suppose since I've spent a good amount of time in Roxas and they're so close to the forest, I'll ask if they've had anyone visit that forest and what they know about it.
Yeah, they do have some information for you. We are in a busy town. Here we go. So, two expeditions have left from Roxas in recent time. They were never heard from again. They just went towards Lothran, trying to follow. There's this river right here, the Alia River or Alia River, depending on your pronunciation. And the forests are big and hard and scary to navigate when you don't have a compass and you don't have satellites and GPS. So following the river has been the prevailing thought of all these people. That's how you get to Lothran. Just you can follow the river and you'll get there. And the 2 expeditions that went out just never came back. So a 3rd expedition was sent out sometime after that with the plan of going one day out and then sending 1 member back to Roxas while the rest of the party goes out for another day. And then when they wake up the next morning, send somebody back. And that way you get to know where people start to disappear from. You get to kind of figure out what's going on. Yeah.
About how long ago was that expedition sent out?
Right. So that was sent out maybe 6 months ago, earlier this year. Make this note here. Right. So it went out about 6 months ago, and it went little and then came back and went a little bit. And then, just like the other ones before it, they stopped sending back people. And that was maybe, 20 miles into the forest. Is this, I just want to make sure my ruler is right here. Yeah, I think this is accurate. Ooh, is it though? Oh, I don't think the ruler is quite accurate. I'll fix the ruler in between stuff. But they went about 20 miles out of Roxas and into the area. So maybe somewhere around here-ish is where they started to disappear on the map. And the others didn't come back. So gathering some folks together, some new brave folks, because once again, people have gone missing. And it's hard to keep sending adventurers or journeymen or soldiers or whoever out into the woods where people just keep not coming back from. It takes a while to get a new group of folks ready to do that. So 3 months later, the 4th expedition from Roxas goes. And they are sent just to that area, just go to here. And once you get there, stop exploring, stop going deeper, and then just kind of search around and figure out what's happening here. And so they were sent to roughly where the problems occurred and carefully explored the area. They all came back, but they came back with this rotting disease. Their skin was starting to hang, their eyes were a little bit jaundiced, their hair was beginning to fall out, they had developed these sores across their body, these just weird red marks everywhere, and everyone was very concerned. And then the day after they arrived back in town, the first people who greeted them back in town started to develop some itchiness, and their eyes started to water all the time. And the dwarves in Roxas were we're not having any of this. And so they solved the problem, and no one's left since.
I inquire about how they solved the problem.
Well, to whoever it is, this is you're asking, just the local people.
Yeah.
We'll get a frowning, uncomfortable look on their face, and they'll tell you that when something's rotting, the only way to save everything else around it is just to cut out the rot. So, those things that were rotting had to be cut out from Roxas.
That is a kinder solution than I had thought. Very good.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to ask?
Well, throughout the time I've been here and hearing about this, I make sure expectations are low, but if I do find anyone from previous expeditions, I'll bring them back.
Yeah. You can find, because we mentioned that third expedition sent people back like every day. And they went about 20 miles. And along this river, that's only like 3 days out. So you can find the two people who were sent back along this from this first journey. The ones who survived the third expedition because they came back to Roxas to report.
Mm-hmm.
And they're here in town. There is dice here. Who do we got? We've got... Oh, wow. We have a half-elf. And... you don't get a lot of half-elves around here.
That half-elf,
and a dwarf.
He's got an important NPC written on him.
Half-elves are always important NPCs. Count on it. Yeah, well, you find the half-elf and the dwarf that went out, and they're here in town. The dwarf is part of the... right. The dwarf works on imports. All the dwarven clan runs all the imports and exports and all of the mercantilism in Roxas. If you're not a dwarf, you can sell things to the the clan. Really, is what you're doing. You're selling it to the clan, and then the clan will sell it to other people. But if you make grain, you have to sell your grain to the clan. You can't just sell it to your neighbor. And so this person works on the import side of this. So anyone that is coming to Roxas with goods from out of the area has to go through this, metaphorical ring of importing, exporting bureaucracy. And this is just one of the bureaucrats in this area. Specifically, he does the very important, high-paying, elegant job of loading and unloading carts on the importing and exporting side. Oh, and his name is Dap.
Okay, well, to Dap in particular, I'll ask, since you know your wares quite a bit, do you know if there are any valuables towards Lothran where you were heading? Or you were exploring?
What do you mean?
What
do you mean valuables on the way?
Was there anything worth anything?
Well, everything has value to the right person. Even a blade of grass has value if you're a slug.
Well, you must have thought it important to send an expedition, to this scary land out there. Why did you explore?
Oh, well. There's hopes that Lothran, if the elves have vanished, they probably left some things behind. You can't pack up your entire civilization and disappear with it overnight. Even the great and powerful wizards of the past have left small things behind. So whatever's there hanging out in the Elven Woods, well, could be of use. Those beloved friends of the woods don't often have great need for metals. Wherever they went, I doubt they need gold, silver, and copper coins. They might have been leaving some behind. Who knows?
That makes sense. And I'll let him know that I'll be looking out for his fellow expedition members. Keeping expectations low.
The half-elf is named Serana. If you have anything you want to investigate with her.
Serana, have you ever been to Lothran?
She shakes her head. No, like most of my people, I was sired in human lands by a traveling emissary, a visiting dignitary of some kind. Well, love happens, love fades, and elves leave. So my human mother raised me until she passed away, maybe 50 years ago. She only looks to be in her 40s or something, but half-elves age a lot more slowly. She's if she looks like she's in her 40s, she's probably like 90 years old or something.
I'll ask, have you ever met an elf other than your father?
I've never met my father,
Oh.
but I have met a few elves. I've tried when I was younger to go out of my way and connect with the other half of my family and heritage. I did manage to speak with a diplomat that had come through Fenden once upon a time. That's where I'm from originally, Fenden. It's a city in Drekis, a town in Drekis, really.
Mm-hmm.
But when I approached the dignitary, he just looked at me with sort of far off, sad eyes, was polite, shook my hand, bowed, but treated me just like everyone else and didn't have time for any of my questions. And when I asked him to take me to his home, what at the time I thought would be my homeland, where things might go more smoothly, said it wasn't possible, and he just moved on. And I've always gotten the impression that the elven people are not too concerned with their cast-offs.
Mm-hmm. I know this is just a pure guess, but do you know why the elves would leave their homeland?
I didn't, but after the last group went out there and came back falling to pieces, I think something like that must have spread in their woods, something that they were unable to combat, something they were unable to stop, and they had to flee. Although what sort of evil could drive out the her face twitches a little bit, the strength and might of this ancient people, this ancient race, the first elves, the first beings. I don't know. It must be absolutely terrible. But it hasn't come here. It hasn't spread to anywhere else. So whatever it is likes the shade, I guess.
Yes, well, thank you for that. I will go investigate.
Oh.
And with that, I'm ready to follow the River Ayla I try to mark down pretty distinctly on the map where that last expedition set up camp.
Yeah. You can get a verbal direction that it was 3 days out, but they were traveling with like dwarves, so their rate is pretty slow. However, that's about your rate because you're in heavy armor, so about 3 days down the river should be roughly it. However, you're just traveling one person travels faster than 10 people. So, 2.5, 3 days down the river is roughly where you should expect to be running into this sort of trouble.
Very good. Am I aware of my own powers in that will I be able to fend off this horrible disease that I've heard of?
You are fully aware of all of your paladin powers, and they are mighty, if you ask me. Paladins are immune to all form of diseases, although certain magical afflictions like lycanthropy and mummy rot are curses and not diseases. So there's a slight difference between curse and disease here. That's important. You're aware that you can lay on hands to heal people at 2 HP per paladin level once per day. You can cure diseases once per week for every 5 levels that you've got on one person. You're surrounded by an aura of protection of 10 feet. You can detect the presence of evil intent up to 60 feet away if you focus on it for a little while.
Okay. Is that a unlimited use thing?
As often as desired, but each attempt takes 1 round.
Okay.
This ability detects evil monsters and characters and, intent. Let's see. When you use your holy mace, you project a circle of power 10 feet in diameter. When the sword is unsheathed and held, or mace in this situation, the power dispels hostile magic of a level up to the paladin's experience level. You can't turn undead yet. You can't call your warhorse yet, and you don't have any spells yet aside from your cleric level. And yeah, there you go.
Okay, very good.
Okay. Shall we follow the river?
Sounds good. I will roughly every hour take a moment to look around and sense the presence of undead or sense a presence of evil. But other than that, just marching along.
All right. Well, let's just start going down the river then. Let me get my random encounter table over here and start rolling some dice. Oh, well, your first day is just a lovely, peaceful walk through the grasslands, along the river. In Roxas, this river is actually in a canyon, like this town's up on this mesa, and then it drops precipitously down into this gulch, which has the river flowing through it. But as you leave Roxas and head downhill, nice, easy walk, eventually the river kind of comes, or the land runs down and meets up with the river. So about the time you reach this fork in the river right here, the ground is roughly even with the river, a little bit higher because the water always is in the lowest point. Yeah, and I think that's about where you will get by the end of your first day, with nothing to see. Some animals in the distance, some birds overhead, gentle grasses, crickets. Just been a nice, pleasant day. There's one thing I wanted to ask before we get started. You have a bag of holding, so you can hold a bunch of stuff. Rations do eventually expire. How many rations would you like to take with you? Do you want to load up on max capacity before they expire, or do you want to just take a small amount?
Max sounds good before they expire.
Okay, so that is going to be 60 days worth of rations.
Very good.
And I'm just going to tick them off as we go. All right. We have rations. Should probably alter this bag ever so slightly so bits aren't.
And not that it will matter much, but do I have any money?
You absolutely should have money. We did not roll for it. And you would have been gifted money by the Empire in order to do your quests. So we're just going to roll for it right now.
Cool.
As a warrior-based character, you're going to roll 5d10 and multiply it. I'm sorry, 5d4 and multiply it by 10.
Do I get to roll my clericness? Because I've been that for a while.
No, we're just going to take the warrior and say that was what was gifted to you.
All right, 5d10 times 4?
5d4 times 10.
5d4 times 10. Great.
Wow, 140.
Ooh. Nice.
Well, that's probably 100 gold coins and 400 silver coins, which we can put in your hoard, since I imagine it's in your bag of holding. We don't want it to add to your weight. There we go. Excellent. Yeah, so the first day goes by just fine. You can settle down roughly where the rivers meet. Begin to take a load off. Now you've got a tent, you've got a sleeping pad, you've got an axe to cut firewood and everything. What is on your first day, on your first real questing day?
Yes.
What is your approach to camping at night? Because you can't really sleep in your armor. That would be so uncomfortable that you wouldn't actually get any rest.
Yeah, my usual nighttime ritual would be to take off the armor, store it nice and safe in... Does it fit in the bag of holding?
No, it does not fit in the bag of holding.
Okay, I'll store it nice right next to inside my tent, next to my bag of holding. And as I wind down for sleep, I'll say my evening prayer to Malchus, I'll report in to him.
Mm-hmm.
I'm about to enter the forest tomorrow, Malchus.
Mm. Yeah. He might have tapped you on the shoulder to bestow your paladin hood on you. He might have tapped you as a young man to help you, to guide you into becoming a cleric, but that doesn't mean he talks with you all the time. You get the impression that humans trying to reach out to deities is a lot like two people on the other side of a thick wall. And you can shout, and they might be able to hear like a and as you level as a cleric or as a paladin or as some sort of divine caster, what you're doing is learning how to project your voice or how to speak in such a way that they can just hear it a little bit better and a little bit better. So by the time you're a high level cleric or paladin, the gods can hear your voice more clearly. And this is the hypothesis on why, some prayers are answered and others aren't, is that the gods only have so much attention and they only can respond to the things that they hear, and why low-level casters don't do as well as the gods just can't hear them as well. Otherwise, they would definitely be granting those prayers. One of many theories that lies out there, the one that we're going to talk about for this campaign. Yeah. So you report in. There's no response. There's no pat on the back, but that's pretty typical.
Yeah.
He's still with you. All right. The next day, we can continue into the woods just a little bit. Start entering to the actual wooded part of all of this. And you will see, according to my dice rolls, I'm going to bring you to this map over here. I'm going to take you over this spot. And we actually have to make sure that the viewer can see. Huzzah! There we go. So what we're going to do here on this map, instead of just showing you everything, I've given you a vision radius, a radius in which you can see things well, and then a radius in which you can make things out but not see them super well, because it's a woods, and in the forest you can't see forever. So as you're coming through the woods, as you're following the river here, you see a group of people. You see a group of what looks to be Drekisian soldiers.
Oh.
Down to yourself.
I'll wave boldly and obviously at them and say, hello.
Yeah. The one in front over here, the bowman, stops and gives you a bit of a wave, turns over their shoulder and calls back to the others, who all, the front line stops moving, but the others continue, and they soon form like a little collection.
Yes, give me a quick reminder since it'll come up shortly. What is the queen's name? Or the empress's name?
Empress Wick, Wikk.
Great.
They wave and they kind of cluster. You can see that, I don't know, there's a bunch of them. About half of them are in leather armor with shields and spears. The other half are in leather armor with bows. And they have a pair of mules with them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but you can only see just a little bit behind them. You can't tell if there's more, if this is just an advanced group or whatnot. But there they are. They're just hanging.
Great. I approach friendly. My mace is sheathed down there at my side. I don't have my shield up, and I'll just walk up and say, hello, I am Nicholas, on a quest in this area. What brings you to this area?
The group. The one that in front will step forward just a little bit, just kind of in front of the others, and say, hail, Nicholas. We are soldiers of the Empire heading north.
Heading north. Very good. Be careful not to travel into the forest. There's a lot of danger there. I look at them. Are they coming from the direction of the forest?
No, they're not coming along the river. They're coming tangentially to the river.
Okay.
As you're looking at them, would you make me a charisma? Yeah, charisma check. You're a paladin. You're a people person. You've got a winning, shining personality. You're used to gazing on folks and making assessments about their nature.
Yes, I've noticed one of them near the back seems to be wounded too.
Yeah, a few of them are actually wounded.
Hmm.
But also their clothes are pretty tattered and their armor is not in great shape. These aren't soldiers who have just, restocked and replenished, and they look like their body language comes off as a little bit cagey, like they're shifting their feet. They're kind of like glancing around nervously. Not the one in the front, but the ones in the back a little bit seem to be, looking left and right in the woods as if keeping their guard up. I don't know if this matters to you.
It does. I'll also add in and asking, have you had any troubles in getting here while getting here?
No, sir. Just some regular old walking, long walk every day makes the feet sore. What did you say you were doing in this area? I hear it's pretty dangerous.
It is. I am under orders from Empress Wick to explore the Elven lands.
Really?
Yeah, I'll pull out the can I have one of those official decrees from Wick?
Yes. You do have an official. I should write a copy of it, but you do have an official decree declaring this paladin is serving the Empire's cause and blah 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 blah.
I'll pull that one out and show it.
You're gonna have to walk all the way up to them then.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, you walk all the way up. This person will stand before you. You can show them the paper. You can see their eyes moving very slowly, as if they're having trouble reading it. You can, at this range, notice the insignias on their shoulders and everything. No one here is an officer. This is just a group of common soldiers without any actual designated leader. Normally, a group of soldiers like this would be led by a knight of some kind. There's no knights and there's no squires and there's no servants around. But the person will scan the letter and then hand it back to you and be like, well, you seem very important. I would hate to get in your way. We should probably be moving on.
What was your task? I'll ask.
We're headed northward to make contact with Abara.
I'll think about if I know an Abara.
Make me an intelligence check. With a 14, you've never heard of Abara.
Okay.
Big continent.
Yep. I'll nod and say, best of luck to you then. And I look at one of the guys in the back who seems especially wounded. Do you happen to need any healing?
The guy looks at you and says, well, I can't afford any healing. It's not on a soldier's pay.
Good news. Free of charge. I give him a winning smile. I can only help one of your people, but perhaps bring out your most wounded.
Yeah. With the approval of the person in front, the guy in the back will make the journey forward and stand before you and go, what sort of god do you worship?
I've got a very prominent amulet of Malchus displayed. I don't know if they'll recognize it.
They will definitely recognize it if it's prominently displayed.
Yes.
So instead of that, he'll look at your amulet of Malchus and be like, well, Malchus, god of chaos.
God of humanity. I nod and smile.
And the person next to him kind of elbows him and goes, this man here's a paladin. The guy goes, really? A paladin? Empress says so. And the wounded soldier will look at you with some concern and hesitation. I don't think anyone's ever seen a paladin of Malchus before. And they seem unnerved by the notion of an embodiment of good who serves the god of humans and chaos and, change.
Calm yourself. I've gotten this a few times as the cleric of Malchus. So not to be unexpected. As I put my hands on him, I take a note of the nature of his wounds. How was he this wounded?
Yeah, these are arrow wounds. He's got his leather armor on, and you can see that there's like a puncture mark that is nice and broad that would go through his bicep where he would hold his spear. And you can see that his spear arm is just a little bit he's not gripping his spear as tightly as you would like, and he seems to be straining. There's like those little blue lines that are running off of the injury, letting you know it's been mildly infected.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Goodness, my son, I say as I take longer than I need to do the lay on hands, but they don't know this.
Mhm.
Um, how did you get these injuries?
Oh, things in the woods, creatures, wild boars, that sort of stuff. The elven woods have always been hostile, and more so now than ever. So, yep.
Well, be careful. Make sure not to wander further in, and I'll put my hands on like the most wounded area and do my lay on hands for the 2 hit points I can heal.
Excellent. The color will return to his arm, the blue lines fade, the flesh knits over, um, and very quickly the others gather round to see this event. Magic is not super common in this world. In fact, we might even say it's an unusual thing, and it's been growing more unusual throughout the ages. Once upon a time, magic was plentiful, but these days, a village is extremely lucky if they have a cleric. A town will probably have at least one cleric, but that doesn't mean that everyone gets clerical healing, So this might be the first time many of these people have seen such magic in their lives. If they served in the war, which ended 5 years ago, so maybe they didn't. They all look kind of young. Maybe they've seen something more, but now they're gathered quite closely looking at this guy.
Mm-hmm. Malchus's blessing be upon you all. I don't know what time of day is it right now?
Oh, it's morning. You just woke up and broke camp.
Very good. Well, Malchus's blessing be upon you all. May we both have good journeys. Be careful not to wander further into the forest.
They take your note, and they hurry up and leave.
Great.
Your own way. Right. Well, Paladin of Malchus, what do you think of those miscellaneous soldiers that you've just met?
It's strange that they were lying to me, but doesn't concern me.
None of your business.
Yep.
All right. Excellent. We can continue on our way, and we're going to take our first break right here in this lovely, peaceful forest where you're just running into your own countrymen and people who are on, ordinary expeditions. You're immune to whatever rot is going to be up and coming before you, so this is just going to be a nice, easy walk down the river with a couple of friendly encounters, and we'll see you on the other side of our break. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Rise of Drekis Chapter 4. We're going to continue our journey today into the woods, and it's going to be pretty easy. We're going through the very lightest part of the forest here on the south side of this river, and the walking's easy. Once you pass those folks, you see a couple other animals throughout the day. You make another 8 miles or so on a normal, flat, open terrain. Like if you're walking down a road, you can do about 20 miles a day if you're not encumbered. If you're walking down a road and you are encumbered like you are, you could probably do about 10 miles a day. Since we're off-road, but like on kind of relatively easy ground, you're probably doing like 8 miles a day or so between breaks and rests and scouting your territory and, all the things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the rest of your day goes pretty fine. It's not until the next morning, not early morning, but mid-morning, that you come across the next creature, or the next thing.
Okay.
And what you find is a doe, a female deer, who is sort of limping along the woods. And she's come out of the woods and down to the river to take like some sips of water. But as she's walking, you can see that she's definitely injured. Like she hasn't had a good run of it all.
Is the nature of the injury some sort of weapon attack or a bite mark?
Make me a perception check to see if you can tell from this range.
Yep.
Yeah. She does not appear to have any obvious wounds or gashes on her, although with the fur on the deer, it can be a little bit hard to tell. You might have to get closer, but there's no like clear injury across her.
Okay. I'll try to stay hidden and, well, not necessarily hidden, but like not threatening. And I will sense if this deer has been infected by evil.
You sense evil intent, or you focus on sensing evil intent. And you find no evil in the area. It's fine.
Very good. Well, I will just let the doe be on her way. I'll continue on my way.
She sips at the water. You could, walk past her and scare her off, or you could detour all the way around her. A good way to not bother the poor creature.
I'll I'll just spend the day. I'm on a relaxed pace, so I'll watch the doe for a bit, let her leave, and then I'll go on my way.
Right. You wait, you watch. She sips some water. Eventually, a noise somewhere in the woods catches her attention, and she bounds off at a, uncomfortable sort of limping gallop or jaunt. What do you call it when a deer sort of lope at a gimping lope through the woods?
Okay.
And you can continue your way. Now, you did mention that every hour or so you'll stop and detect evil intent.
Yes. I don't know if it requires me to stop, but while walking, I'll...
Yeah, it's a round action. I think you have to kind of stop moving and focus your thoughts and like clear your area.
Yes.
So it's that night while you're settling down to make camp, and you stop to detect evil before you make camp, I assume, making sure that you're not camping in the middle of evil. Yep. And then once you have finished your food and everything, it would probably make sense to detect evil intent again, just to, you're about to go to bed. And it's that second time. It's the time right before, after you've already made your camp, but before you've settled down for the night, that you detect something clearly out of alignment with the order of things in this world. And that means something is within 60 feet. Concentrating on the location. Oh yeah, so you concentrate on locating evil in a particular direction. So I think you're sort of scanning the area around you, and then all of a sudden you feel it. Kind of how you felt the mace. There's something in front of you, within 60 feet of you, that's most certainly a maligned entity.
Great. My campfire is going, right? I'll stand near the campfire and look in that direction, pull out my Holy Avenger and get ready for if it wants to attack.
Couple minutes pass. You don't see any movement. There's no obvious creature. But if you focus
call out
again,
to the forest. Well, I guess I'll focus again.
Yeah, you focus again and it's still there.
I'll call out to the forest. Show yourself. What are you? Who are you?
It's just quiet in response. No creatures call out. No beings are there.
Great. I'll decide to put off sleeping for a little bit. Just sit next to the campfire, looking in that general direction for up to an hour.
Yeah. The hour comes and goes, and the evil is still there. And it's just there. It's just in that direction. If you look in other directions, you're not getting surrounded. But whatever it is within 60 feet, which is really close, and isn't moving.
All right, I'll start walking in that direction then.
With the
Pulling out, what is my source of light here? A torch?
uh, the
It is a torch, I guess. I will make sure
that
I have a few
mean
torches here.
yeah. So if you have your torch, then you don't have your shield, or you don't have your mace, right?
Yeah, no shield then.
Okay, perfect. Perfect. Yep. You've got your torch, you've got your mace, and you step forward into the woods away from your campsite looking for this evil.
Mm-hmm.
And as you move away, you start round, there's trees all around you. And as you get come around one of these trees, you can see that sort of behind this tree, blocked from your view on the other side of where you were by the camp, is this very slightly illuminated, like, shape. It's got this red glow to it, a very faint glow, like a gentle bioluminescent style glow, in the shape of like the sheet of some kind. If you were to take a very clear plastic bag, a really clear plastic bag, and mold it vaguely into the form of like a shoulders and back, this red glow kind of comes from that. It's 99% transparent with just a hint of red throughout it.
Okay. Uh, as soon as I see this thing, I'll call out to it. Hello?
The thing just slowly begins to twist until it faces you.
Oh.
And it has a face. It has a humanoid face of a really young man. I mean, man at this point, somewhere between a boy and a man, maybe 19, 17, 16, something like that, like a teenager's face to it.
Yes. Is this a floating teenager? Does it have a
Um,
body?
it's not so clear to have a distinct body. How do I have a description here to explain how this looks. It is nope, I don't have a description. Oh, I do. It's on the ethereal plane. The creature looks to you like at the top where its head is the most defined, most well defined, and as it gets lower and lower towards the ground, it becomes just a little fuzzier, a little bit less well defined, a little bit more transparent, until by the time you reach the ground, you can't quite make out the feet, but it looks as if there might be legs that go all the way down. And as I said before, it's more of just like the concept of an outline of a person, except for the face, which is quite clearly an individual's face, a specific person's face.
Okay.
Yeah.
My hand's ready at my holy avenger as I look at it and I keep talking to it, trying to get something. What's happened to you?
It does not open its mouth, does not say anything, it doesn't project thoughts into your mind. It just stands there observing you.
Okay. I'll have a stare off with it for 2 minutes.
You look at it. It looks at you. It doesn't move. It doesn't even shift its weight. It doesn't do any of those little micro movements that humans do. It doesn't even blink its eyes.
I lose the staring contest. All right. Well, I'll do the full round action of sensing the evil intent. Will this generally be just to see if something is evil or if something is out to get me?
Generally, if something is, say, things with evil intent or things that are in direct opposition to like the divine plan, like a mindless undead doesn't have any intent, but it is in direct, its existence is in opposition. So undead would be triggered even if it doesn't have intent.
Got it. Is there the possibility of such a thing as a undead that isn't evil?
No, undead.
No, okay.
All undead are abominations and ought to be removed from this world.
Do I get the ghost feeling on looking at him?
Well, you have the undead lore proficiency, don't you?
Yes.
Yeah. So with the undead lore proficiency, you'd know that there are generally three categories of undead. There's skeletons, which are bone-based creatures. There's zombies, which have flesh, and there are ghosts, which have no physical form. Ghosts tend to have some sort of cold projection around them. And when we say ghost, there's like 100 different types of ghosts. This one isn't projecting any cold on it. It's not altering the area around it. It's not coming after you or going away from you. It doesn't seem to have any movement. It seems to be a very simple, basic form of undead, and it's definitely undead. That like ghostly red hue that comes through it, that sort of like outline with a misty insides, speaks to you of something that's on the ethereal plane and is projecting itself somewhat into the material world. A creature like this usually needs a magic weapon to be interacted with at all. You could pass a normal sword through it all day without ever hurting it. Lucky for you, you do have such a magical weapon.
Lucky me. All right. Well, I will very cautiously advance towards it with my hand on my sword, my Holy Avenger. It's a mace, right?
It's a
the way to
mace.
describe it.
Yeah.
And I'll just slowly advance.
To what range will you advance?
How far can I throw holy water?
That's a great question. If you want to throw the vial, you can throw like a glass vial of holy water pretty far, but a glass vial of holy water won't interact with a ghost. So if you just want to splash holy water, then I think you can get maybe 10 feet.
Okay. At 30 feet, I'll pull out, a vial of the holy water, hold it alongside the torch.
Now, this is a great opportunity to talk about this because it's pretty low stakes. This thing doesn't seem to be coming after you. But if you've got a torch in one hand and a weapon in another, you're going to have to put one of these away momentarily to unshoulder your bag, reach into your bag and pull out the holy water and then put the bag back on your shoulder and then uncork. Like, it's a bit of a process. So
Okay.
Just as a thought experiment, one day this may become important. For now, though, how do you do this? Do you get rid of your fire? Do you get rid of your mace?
Yeah, I'll put the torch on the ground for a bit, making sure that it's sturdy, and then, reach in, grab the vial, hold the vial and the torch in a hand.
Hold the vial and the torch in the same hand?
Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
And I'll once again start advancing at it slowly.
Okay, so torch and vial in one hand, grasped together, so the torch is, the vial is pushed against the torch, mace in the other. You go from 30 feet to 25 to 20 to 15 to 10 to 5.
That's right, to 10.
To 10.
And I'll look at it. It's just been sitting there, or just floating there, looking at me.
Just standing or floating there. Now that you've been looking at it for a nice long time, You can see the interior is sort of a mist, almost like there's a cloud of fog that is pushed up against some walls, and like larger droplets are forming on the outside. That thing that we called like the plastic bag around it is actually just like a cluster of larger mist particles that feels like, you know, mist in a bag. Water running down the sides of it, maybe.
I don't know if I can do anything to help you, I say, but maybe this will, and I'll slowly lay the torch down at a nearby tree and, you know, watch its reactions as I uncork the vial of holy water. And then I will.
I mean, if you didn't know better, this thing would be a statue. It doesn't move. It doesn't blink. It did rotate at one point to face you, but that rotation was very slow, and it didn't like come from a normal twisting of the body. It just, you know, shifted.
And then I'll hurl the vial of holy water at it, intending to splash as much of it as possible.
Excellent. Well, it's right in front of you and it's not moving, so I don't think you can miss it. But you never know. Roll me a, you know, whatever your basic attack roll is, and I think you need to hit like a... I think you only need to hit like a 4 on this thing.
All right, let me click. Oh, I'm on this. Let's see. Click. Basic attack. I think that's just a 1d20.
Yep.
Oh, plus strength, I guess, 15.
Yeah, you splash the holy water, and it does exactly what you would expect it to. The water hits the creature, and it begins to wither and like twist and contort and boil away. And I'm just looking up the holy water damage right here. Page 89. Holy water does d6 plus 1 damage on a direct hit, and 2 damage on a miss or on a splash. So yeah, 7 points. The thing before you withers like the judge from Who Framed Roger Rabbit, boiling away in the in the disposable, in the disappearing ink stuff. It just kind of melts and fades with a little bit of a pop and a little bit of a hiss. And then it's gone. The red glow is gone.
How very unusual. I'll look through its remains to see if there's anything.
There is no remains. It is just now a patch of regular forest.
All right. Well, satisfied, I go back to camp and, you know, I do my... Well, actually, from here, I'll once again sense evil and look around, but assuming there's nothing, I'll go back to camp and, you know, go to sleep.
Yeah. That's it. That was it. It was just a stationary spirit that was just looking at you.
Very unusual.
Didn't try to defend itself, didn't attack, didn't flee. It just stood there. What do you make of this, Paladin?
It's troubling because I consult my undead lore. Most undead, I presume, would just advance towards you and attack.
Yes. That is the classic and most common type of undead, is one that is aggressive and violent and wants to destroy life.
Can I think of any undead that would not do that?
Yeah, make me an undead lore proficiency check. We'll see what your obscure undead lore is.
All right.
Oh,
ooh,
excellent. That's a 27. Yes, there are a few types of undead that are less aggressive, and they're almost all in the ghostly format. There's a type of ghost called a phantom, which it's phantom is a necromancer's first foray into the world of ghosts. In essence, it's a spirit of a creature that is unaware that it is dead, acting out moments of its life in a chaotic and twisted show. It could be reliving its final moments of death, creating visuals outside of itself to fit its narrative, but does so without knowing or understanding. So it could just, it's a creature who's going through some part of its life and kind of making the world, creating illusions around it. But that's definitely not what this was. There's also things like specters or shades, which are magical, I shouldn't say magical, undead creations that wander about. Let's see the specter description. A specter is a plain-faced ghostly creature. Under the guise of detect magic or similar spells, the specter looks like its creator. They do not interact with the material world, but do not wander like phantoms. They can be possessed or enchanted. You don't need to know about that stuff. So specters are sort of wandering, ghostly creatures created by necromancers. And then there are shades. The shades are ethereal creatures with the form and face of the caster, unless they were created by sacrificing another creature, in which case they have the form and face of whichever creature was sacrificed to create them. They have simple intelligence, so they can follow very vague general orders and do their own things. And they can move over, greater territories and have more autonomy than just a simple specter. Then you have poltergeists, which also don't really attack, but they're more like a servant. Typically, they're made by necromancers. They're bound to an object or to a location, and then they follow the necromancer's orders from there. So you might have like a poltergeist who haunts a necromancer's lair and helps like bring things to the necromancer. They actually interact with the physical world, and they can lift small loads and move small things around, but they're not aggressive in and of themselves. And then everything more advanced than that is pretty nasty or aggressive. Like proper ghosts, what most people think about when they think about ghosts, will drain energy and life from all around them. They project an aura of cold. They seek out living forms and grab onto them and suck their life away, draining years off of them. Czars will actually possess people. Spirits are, former creatures brought back into their form with their actual combat stats. So this has got to be like a phantom, a specter, a shade, or a poltergeist.
Frightening. Did it look like a human teenager?
Yes.
Okay. Well, disturbing, but unsurprised. I'll head back to camp and
You feel
rest for the
comfortable
night.
sleeping for the night? You're by yourself. What happens if something comes up to you in the middle of the night while you're sleeping?
It's only going to get worse from here. It's not like I can't sleep.
It's true. Okay. The day, the night pass. All right.
I rest assured knowing that Malchus wouldn't find dying in your sleep to be an amusing way for his paladin to die.
Okay. Well, you do wake up the next day out here in the woods alongside the river, and it, aside from the weird ghost that you saw last night, spirit really, it appears fine. Everything seems to be pretty normal. It's just a nice, beautiful day in the forest. Most of it's pretty shaded. There's a bunch of splotches of light everywhere. You can find some open glades. You can find some creatures, little bunny rabbits hopping around, birds nesting. bundling up, trying to get some last food before the real winter. Actually, it's September, still summer. Enjoying the warmth of summer. It's a happy, lovely little peaceful forest without any violence or economics, no oppression, no rules to follow, no jails, just a lovely little forest.
Well, that's nice. I'll revisit that area where the ghost was slain and sense evil and be on my way after packing up camp.
Yep, not a piece of evil to be found.
Well, further in, and I keep wary of, the undead that's bound to be in the area.
Yeah. You follow along this river for a little while, and I could use a perception check from you right about now.
All right.
23. Excellent. You will notice that there is an overgrown path that leads to the river from here. As in, like, it was a path once upon a time, but it hasn't been traveled in a while. And so the hard-packed earth is slowly softening, and grasses are springing back up in and amongst it. And it can be hard to find paths in the forest. When the canopy gets really thick overhead, there's not actually a lot of grass on the ground. So we're in an area that's still light enough that you can see, trails, but an old trail that leads off the river. I don't know if this is of interest to you or not, though.
Do I get any sense of how far this path might go?
How could you tell such a thing? What would be indicators?
I guess, to put another way, it looks like this path ends at the river.
Yes, it ends at the river.
Okay.
At like a little sandy spot where the river's kind of wide, and this little sandy spot is also really shallow, which makes the river right here very still and very easy. Like, you could wade probably up to your hips without being pulled by the current at all. The perfect spot for people and creatures to come and get water.
Okay, great. Well, this is what I was looking for. Civilization. So I know I see the path, so I could easily follow it back to the river.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll start heading down this overgrown path.
Yeah. You could walk for maybe 5 or 10 minutes off the road, off the riverside, until you come to an area where the woods are exceptionally thick. Not thick. The trees are exceptionally thick. They get larger and larger until they are, in some areas, maybe 10 feet across.
Ooh, are these the trees I was looking for?
Maybe. You're not. The elves are these mysterious, reclusive folks who try not to interact. You are looking for specialty elven trees, and you have a feeling that you'll know them when you see them. And these are unusual. These are like large redwoods in what is otherwise it's still a coniferous forest in this area, but not redwoods. They're more like pines and spruces and shit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. I'll start heading down to following the path.
Yeah. It's just a real tall trees that are pretty wide. Roots at the bottom protrude from the ground quite a bit. Clearings in the area. Some other smaller trees scattered in and amongst these really tall ones.
Mm-hmm. Does it look like the path goes down or right here on the map?
It looks like it heads at least into this clearing of some kind.
Okay. I'll head on down there.
Yeah. Throw me another perception check as you enter in. It's probably
sure.
Fine.
Perception.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what? It's just a big old clearing. There's some trees. They're big trees, but they're just trees.
Okay. Onward.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I'll see where the path goes from the clearing.
Yeah, I mean, it does kind of look like one path leads off this way, and one sort of leads off this way, and one sort of leads down here. Kind of feels like you're in an area where paths are intersecting and crossing and moving about.
Okay, this looks like a nice central area. I take a moment and I sense evil as I look around all the paths.
Not an evil to be detected. It's nice. Big old redwood trees, some other ones around, no evil, river nearby. What a lovely little clearing.
Nice. I'll detach my the circular part of the amulet of Malchus. It doubles as a coin, and
Mm.
I will put it on the ground, spin it around. Looks like there are six paths, so I will see. I'll mentally count off clockwise. Well, actually, I'll see where the point a Malchus coin points the head.
There are six paths. It points towards path number 5.
All right, looks like that flipped to northwest. Then I'll say that's where it landed, and I will, reattach it to my chain and head off this way to the west.
All right. Yeah. Up ahead, you'll see that there are some fallen trees. Nothing unusual. Trees fall in the woods all the time. There's a few sayings about it, even. And it's still these, really thick redwoods all over here.
Hmm.
It's weird. You haven't seen any tall, dense, girthy beasts like this before.
Okay,
And
I'll go up to that fallen tree and I'll note about if this is the type of tree that Queen Wick would love chopping down.
Well, it looks like solid oaks and timbers. You actually hear a buzzing noise coming from the fallen log. It could be. It doesn't strike you as like this is the thing. But they do look like pretty fucking solid trees if you're going to be building a ship or a fleet of ships.
Okay, I see right over this ridge. It looks like that might be a constructed tree. Someone's looks like a tree that someone's done something with.
Which tree?
I can see this tree trunk that's been laid flat.
This one?
Yeah.
Yeah. It does look like it has fallen in an unusual way and split in an unusual way. And as you get closer, you can see the signs of axes being worked on the tree right here and saws. And there's no sawdust left, but there's the clear marks of someone has felled this tree with intention.
Okay. I think to myself, I might be approaching an elvish village that I've been looking for, and I'll walk on in.
Yeah. The tree is solid all the way through. It's not hollow. But you do find yourself looking at this. Give me a perception check.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, with the 15, someone chopped this tree down, and it's probably been a few months, maybe a few years.
Okay.
Probably not a few years. It hasn't started to resprout anything. Well, it hasn't really started to decay. There's no, growth all over it. It's not moldy or mossy or fungusy. So it probably was felled in the last few months. You can see the base of it that is over here, where it was chopped from.
Got it. I'm
and you can
thinking
see
about
a hive of bees hanging out in this tree, attached to the limb of this tree.
Okay. Well, I'm thinking about it some more. I idly think as I keep walking down, is there still a path here?
Not really. You're kind of losing it. It's just,
all right.
yeah.
I'll head on back to the main six-way, and I'll think to myself if I've ever heard anything about an elf chopping down a tree.
They do use a lot of wooden things.
Hmm.
They definitely have an affinity for wooden crafts and works.
Okay.
But it
So it's
does
not like they
feel...
wouldn't chop down a tree.
I don't know. It does kind of feel a little weird, you know? Can you imagine elves out there with axes and saws and chopping things down?
Yeah, pretty weird.
I mean, maybe that's why they're so secretive. Maybe they're trying to keep up this ruse of being lovely forest-dwelling creatures, but actually they're just regular old folks. Maybe that's their great secret, is that they're very ordinary and they're very much like humans who just live a long time.
Okay, well, I look to the bottom left and I see that path's kind of blocked off by trees, so I'll go down this bottom path.
Yeah, there's a huge tree here. This is what, like 20 feet in diameter. This is the largest tree you've ever seen in your life. I mean, every tree here is the largest tree you've ever seen in your life, but this one at the very end of your vision is just monstrously large.
Okay. I'll admire it from here.
As you admire this tree, you will notice that there is an opening between its root structures down here. Like the tree branches down in these big flutes, and in between them, normally there's bark, but on this side, in between the fluted areas, is just, it curves inward. And you know, from your angle, you can't see what's inside, but it does appear to be a cave of some kind or a hollowing.
Okay. From here, I estimate that to be about 60 feet away, so I'll sense evil amongst the tree. I'll get close enough so I can capture the whole tree in it.
There's no evil to be detected here whatsoever. It's perfectly peaceful and happy and fine and lovely and just an ideal place to settle down.
Okay, very good. Well, then I will round around this cliff and then start walking up the spiral path that leads to the opening.
Yeah. As you get to this area, if you go up on your tippy toes and kind of peer over this cliffy area, you can see indeed it turns inward and becomes hollow on the inside.
Very good. I'll walk along the path. Let me know if I need to drop myself off anywhere, but I'll make my way to the opening.
Yeah, you make your way to the opening. It's a nice, easy, gentle path, and as you walk along it, you can see that there is the remains of what was probably a very neat and orderly little garden around it. You've got these little plants here that seem to be growing in like particular places. Like every other root cluster has the same plant that's planted around it, but it's not quite in the nice, neat format. It's almost like there was an intentional planting of trees, or of these flowers, of these herbs of some kind, and then those ones died, but the other ones sprouted nearby, and they've kind of like spread off of their intended positioning.
Okay. Looking at the outside of this tree, does it look like there are any balconies as it goes up? Like any... When I look inside, is there any clear way to go up the tree?
Well, absolutely. Inside is a nice big hollow area, maybe 15 feet across. There is a countertop that just sort of extends out from the tree. And as you walk through the entryway, you don't see any joinery, you don't see any nails, you don't see any hacking marks. Like whoever carved this hole through the tree must have spent a million years sanding it down and polishing it, because it just looks perfectly smooth all the way around. As you look inside, you've got this like table that sticks out from the tree, but if you look at it really closely, it doesn't join into the tree. It's just someone carved this space around this table. The table is just the part of the tree that wasn't carved. And to your right, there's a little bit of a spiral staircase that extends, around the tree and goes up and up and up and up. And each of these steps on the staircase jut out and are all connected together, but they also haven't been They haven't been nailed. This is no screws at this time. They haven't been glued. It's as if someone carved the entire house by hand all at once without attaching anything anywhere, which is borderline impossible, or would take, I don't know, hundreds of years to just make this one room.
Okay. I admire it as I walk up to it, and I can't help but think to myself, elves have way too much times on their hands as I walk up.
There are vases made out of that same structure where it's just like a canal that runs into the side of the tree where you could store water and then, you know, reach it and dip it, reach into it and pull water out with a ladle of some kind. There's a couple of chairs, but again, they come out of the ground and form like a weird postmodern art style form of chair that's just got like the one base and sort of an awkwardly rounded area that you could like sit against and lean against. It would probably be kind of comfortable, but looks fucking, you know, elven tech, elven designs. Kind of not. It looks delicate, but it feels sturdy. And then there's the staircase that wraps up and up and up and probably goes, you know, 4 or 5 stories.
Okay. Is there anything interesting on the staircase, or is it just floor 1 and then floor 5?
You don't even see particular floors.
Okay, I'll walk all the way to the top and you know, admire the view at each point. I'm on the lookout for any items, I guess, as well.
Well, there are a couple of openings that lead out onto the tops of branches that have been lowered to give like a nice flat walking area. And so you can get, you know, 30 feet up in the tree and come out on this large branch or on this large branch on that side. But there's
I will take each opportunity to go out and kind of look around to see if this is a part of a larger elven village or if this is just one elvish house.
Yeah, from up here on the treetops, you can see and look to a couple of these other trees around you and notice that on their upper branches, they too have entryways into them. You haven't seen any ground entryways anywhere, but up on the tops, on these larger stuff, they do. And, you know, this tree will have a large branch that extends out this way, and this tree has a large branch that extends out this way, and they kind of get vaguely near each other. You get the impression that if you walked out, there might be a way to, you know, maybe this branch that bends down a little bit and this branch that bends up a little bit, like maybe they're close enough that you could hop from one to the other with ease. And that this might be the one entrance into what is otherwise like a avian style treetop city.
I see. So I get the sense that this is like the Grand Junction tree.
Yeah, and maybe the way to the ground.
Okay.
But as you explore, you find nothing of note. No rugs, no metal goods, no finished goods that aren't attached to the tree. Whatever was here, if anything was ever here, has been taken. Like even the aforementioned ladle that you might use to scoop water out of these vases that are carved into the tree, not here. And,
all right.
Again, when I say carved, everything has been so finely sanded that there's no tool markings anywhere, which in an ancient world before, you know, power tools is really hard to do. It's really, and without modern sandpaper, you know, where you can just glue various grains to something and rub and rub and rub, like the smoothness and the lack of joinery is borderline unnerving.
Yeah, I observe it and think to myself once again, what a waste of time. And as I head out to up, I will arbitrarily pick a branch path to attempt to go to another tree. I guess not arbitrarily. I'll pick the one that looks the easiest to walk.
Oh, yeah. So that's maybe 40 feet up. There's a nice thick branch that's maybe 8 feet across, and it's been lowered so that you can walk easily on a path that's maybe 2 feet, 1.5 feet, 2 feet across. And you could stroll out on this one and walk over to, and it very clearly goes out for a little ways, and then there's another branch that comes by, and there's just like a gap of 2 feet that you could easily hop over without any issue. I mean, you're 40 feet up, so if you fall, it's a long fall, and then this cliff is also here, so maybe it's actually 50 feet to the ground because this tree starts a little bit higher up. It would be 5d6 falling damage, which is probably not enough to kill you unless it rolled really, really badly.
Okay, but it is a trivial hop that I can make.
Yeah, as long as you're not in any danger.
Very good. I'll walk that way, and I'll make the trivial hop.
Trivial hop from one to the other. Yeah. Get to the other tree, and much like this one, it's hollowed in the center. It goes up and it goes down. It has other branches that come out that connect to other nearby areas. And this one does have, as you explore it, because I'm going to speed us through the exploration a little bit, it does have some trinkets. Nothing fancy, no great weapons, no tomes of magic, nothing like that. But you do come across multiple pairs of sandals. You come across like a sash that one might wear, or maybe it's supposed to be like a skirt that you tie across you. You come across some wooden tools for like household meal preparation. There's like a mortar and pestle that you might use to grind things. There's some ladles for pulling out water. There's even something that looks like, it's shaped in the shape of a knife, but it doesn't have a knife's cutting edge. It's just like a toy wooden knife is maybe what you would think of it as.
Okay.
There are some leaves and ferns that have been woven together in like an artistic representation, but they've been dead now for a long time, and so they're just kind of like withered and dry.
I'll pocket the... Would it be accurate to call it a toy wooden knife?
Yeah.
Or does it actually have a use?
Give me an intelligence check.
All right. Wow. Crit!
Fantastic. You can't see any use for this thing unless you're cutting something as soft as butter. Like, it's wood, it's fairly sturdy, but it would break if you get the impression as you bend it a little bit that you could snap it. And it's either a toy or it's used for spreading soft cheeses and butters, if it's a tool at all.
Okay, I think this is the perfect representation of what elves would use, so I'll pocket one. And I think my goal has mainly started to be grand scale, trying to find out why the elves left the area. So if there are any writings that would be helpful, or anything I think that would be an indicator of such. And I'll start exploring the area using the tree paths.
Make me 5 perception checks and 5 intelligence checks and 5 wisdom checks.
All right. Would you like 1 each or 5, 5, 5?
5, 5, 5, please.
Okay. Here's 5 perception.
Ooh, excellent on that natural 20.
Yeah. 5 ints.
Excellent.
And 5 will power?
Yeah. Willpower, wisdom, same for our purposes. Ooh. What an odd mix. Okay, we're going to take our break right here, and when we come back, we're going to figure out what all of this means, hopefully. And we'll see you on the other side. Hello, everybody, and welcome back. So, we're exploring this elven village. And you can tell that it must have been home to, less than 100 elves. Can't be that many. And you're going to notice a bunch of things here. I had you make 5 perception, int, and wisdom checks. I have made them correlate with one another, and there were 5 things to note here. You have found 4 of these 5 things. Not that you know that you're missing any of them.
Okay.
I'm just going to give them to you in the order of the rolls. The first thing that you come across is a set of writings. And these are writings on paper, on vellum, actually, which is like a skin that's been pulled taut, and then you can write on. It's very sturdy. It lasts a long time. In ancient days, vellum was such a good and expensive writing material that if there was something written on vellum that you don't need anymore, you would like try to wash the writing off so that you could reuse the vellum. It's a very long-lasting form of note-taking. Now, you don't speak Elven.
Oh,
so you have no idea what it says, but you killed your wisdom check on this.
Ooh.
And so based on the sort of the fact that this is the only one that you found and the fact that it was positioned out of the way, like it would take a while to find it, but once you were in the room where it would be extremely hard to miss. This feels to you like it's some sort of message or letter or signal that was left for someone to find it, but like someone that took the time to really explore this. It's got to be one of those like, if you find this letter, then it means, it probably tells you all sorts of stuff, but you have no idea how to read Elven.
I will how well do you think I could make a replica of it by writing it down? How well do I think I could make a replica? Also, I'll note that this detective music is awesome. A little loud, though.
Yeah, turn it down. Thank you.
I don't want to take it in case, someone else needs it as a sign. Actually, no, I'll just take it.
Okay, you can roll it up. It's just set on a table with a couple of stones to weigh it down, but it rolls up nice and easily, fits in your bag of holding.
Mm-hmm.
All right. The next thing that you find is a secret cache in one of these trees. There's an area where you're looking around underneath things, and you come to, this was actually back in the main tree, the first one that you had entered through. As you're re-exploring off to another branch, you can see down on that base layer, that ground floor, they're right inside of what I described as a vase where you could like stash water, but there's no water in there. There is like a section in here that you can sort of push and slide and then pull back out, and it opens like a little hidden compartment, and you can just reach your hand in and pull out gold, fistful of gold coin after fistful of gold coin.
Whoa.
If you'd like, you can take it all, and I'll just tell you how much is in there, or if you feel like it might be dangerous to dig into this golden pile, you can explore it more carefully.
Can I look at it and see how much gold roughly is in there?
It's like it's attached inside this thing that reaches down, so you can't fit your head. Like there's no way to look into this thing. You were lucky that you even managed to catch it all, only because you rolled the 25.
Okay, I make the guess that is it possible to take the pot and pour it out, or is this
the pot is grown out of the tree? So you have an axe. You could hack the pot to bits, and then you could get a clear look at this thing.
Nah, I'll do it the intended way. I make the guess that if it's this well hidden, it's probably not trapped. So I'll start shoveling it out.
There's 700 gold in here.
Nice. Well, make a note. No, I won't. I'll add it to my bag of holding.
All right. As note, a base laborer in society would make maybe like 37 gold a year. So
wow.
Blacksmith will make like a gold a day, so 300 a year. But still, this is a large sum of money.
I will muse to myself as I'm shoveling this into my bag of holding. If this is a potential indicator that the elves are a communal society who pull all their money together.
The next thing that you come across is in one of these other trees. Very near to the central tree. It's one of the ones that's just one jump away. It looks a little bit thinner when you enter it, but if you go all the way down, that like spiral staircase that goes down to the base of the floor actually hits the earth and then tunnels down into the earth, leaving the tree and coming into a well-packed area where like the walls are pushed away with just, careful packing, and a couple of very slender, very beautiful, gentle boards that help hold everything together. It's got like a really artistic, like spiraling pattern to shore up the walls. You've probably been inside a mine or an underground chamber of some point in your life, and humans build these like sturdy structures with lots of heavy wooden boards to make sure the earth doesn't fall down and compact on you. And this is like very elegant, minimalistic design that goes down maybe 15 feet underground into a room, maybe 45 feet across. It's in a weird oval shape. And there is a slab of stone here, probably carved in place like the other things, on top of which is a partially mummified body of an elf. And when I say partially mummified, this is what you scored your 34 on the wisdom check for, which is like a natural 20 for you, I think. This was a mummification process that was stopped. Not like we only got part way, but work was interrupted and they had to leave in the middle. Like, we didn't stop for the night. We had to get out of here. We had to leave while we were in the middle of mummifying this person.
Wow, okay. And this is like a process that takes hours, right? Or days?
Yeah, traditional mummification is usually done by, 5 clerics or, clerics and priests, acolytes that would help them out. It's like a 5-person job, and it'll take the better part of a day to do it right. Now, that depends on like the rituals that you do. If you do long rituals, it'll take longer. If you scrap all of the ceremonial stuff and you just go for pure mechanics, you could probably do it in a couple of hours.
Interesting. From this context, I gather this place that I initially thought was a mine is actually a temple? Okay.
And the last thing that you will find here in a different tree altogether, and this time way at the top, not down underground, is this is where you scored the 30 on the perception check. It's on the floor. It's a circle, just like a carving, just like a little ring that goes around the tree, followed by like another little ring. And in between these things, it's a magic circle is what you're looking at. But traditional human magic circles are like carved into the ground and then etched with the proper tools. So you have the writings carved into a surface. But what you're looking at here is the wood grain, because you're going across, and so you've got all that end grain sticking up that, like, if you cut a tree apart, you'll count the rings, right? The rings are the wood grain that you're dealing with. And the darker parts where the trees grow more slowly in the wintertime are normally just concentric or concentric-ish circles. And here, they wobble and they curve. And in between these two thicker lines of the dense part of wood is what looks like the script of the magic language made out of wood grain, which isn't something that you can manage. You can't change the shape of the tree. The tree had to be grown in such a way that when it got to this level, that it would form the magic words, the arcane symbols that make up the magic circle. This is a feat beyond any human capacity. This has to be an intentionally grown and shaped tree that would have taken, I mean, if you sit there and count the rings, probably a couple hundred years to grow it this way. Well, maybe like 50 years to grow it this way, but then to let the wood tree continue to grow out beyond the circle so that you could use it for other things, a few hundred years.
All right.
Now, you're a divine caster, so you can tell that this is definitely not divine in any way. The only other type of magic out there, I mean, aside from necromancy, is arcane magic. And, who knows? But it's been here for a long time. It's a product of great work. And this small village of less than 100-ish people has both a temple and a... Magic circles are pretty upper mid magic. It's not high magic, but it's
Well, I'm not a mage. Do I know what magic circles are used for?
Yes. They come in different uses. Sometimes, like, the most classic version of a magic circle is that you summon something inside the magic circle, and the magic circle provides protection so it can't get out. Like, if you were summoning a demon or a monster or whatever, you'd summon it in here and it provides protection. Your great king, Imric McGarry, has a magic circle that he uses as a teleportation circle, where you can stand inside of it and teleport from one magic circle to the other without any chance of error. Fantastic use. Other times, magic circles work as a place of divination, as like collecting. In all cases, the magic circle is used to accumulate and consolidate magic for more easy shaping. When you want to do something really big and complicated and it needs a lot of effort, you would use a magic circle to help refine
real
these
quick.
things.
You cut out a little, and your stream may have gone down. Oh no, it's good. All right, did it just catch back up? Okay.
Okay, yeah. So, sorry, stream was killing. The magic circle, used by arcane casters to consolidate large amounts of magical power in one place, and then to shape it. So if you want to do something really big but really precise, you usually need a magic circle to make it happen. Sometimes these can be used to like make a higher level spell castable at a lower level, or to replace material components. But it's always indicative of higher level abilities, or the shaping of really difficult magics, or the controlling of very chaotic magics.
Okay. I will. Well, I don't know what this means at all. I will take out a piece of paper and write down. Kind of trace, I guess, would be the better way of putting it. The magic symbol that the tree formed.
Okay.
Just so, with the goal of someday, if I wander upon a arcane caster, they might be able to tell me what it is.
Mm-hmm. Notes here. And you just left the mummified body, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I guess I'll have looked at it. No, but I'll. Anything of note, like the mummification process is just wrapping it in some sort of material?
Usually you like clean the body. Sometimes in some areas you might remove certain organs. Then there's like a using some sort of preservative to bind any areas. There's also usually a desiccation process, or sometimes a desiccation process where you might try to expose it to like really high but not flammable heats and very dry environments to pull out the moisture. And this looks like it had already had the moisture pulled out of it, and like the legs appear to be covered in some sort of honey like residue, which has seeped off of them and flowed onto the tree, but it's still kind of like gross. And the rest of it didn't get this ointment or this balm that was supposed to go across it. So the lower part of the body is more intact and mummified, and the upper part of the body has sort of like crumpled and dried and flaked away.
Okay. On seeing that they were on a bit of a rush, I'll take a look at the message that was written on the fancy paper. Is it paper or is it some other material?
Vellum. It's stretched skin.
And while it is near impossible to tell, I'm sure, if given the context, I'll try to think about if this was hastily written.
I don't think that we need a roll for this. The script is fluid and confident and bold. It doesn't look like anyone was scrawling in a hurry, or maybe it was done quickly, but they just had like a really nice handwriting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. After having finished visiting all the trees that I know of in this elven village, Yep.
Yep.
I will Let's see. Continue on my way unless it's late enough that I'll just decide to stay here instead.
Yeah, I think you end your searching because the sun begins to dip and die down. And you could probably keep searching this place tomorrow if you wanted to keep searching it, or you could call it quits. You have as
Okay,
much time as you want.
got it. I'll sleep in one of the places that looked like it was more for sleeping.
Yep, you find what's clearly some sort of cot, again, just carved straight out of a wall, or, the wall was carved back so it sticks out into the room and it has a nice gentle dip and like one of those little tiny Japanese pillow sorts of things where you just set it down behind your head and then you lean back carefully on it. One of those, I don't know what the term is for those headrests, but it's all carved from the same material.
Nice. Well, it's here that I'll rest up for the night.
Okay. Well, night passes peacefully in the elven forest. As you sleep, I would like a wisdom willpower check from you.
Okay.
27. Excellent. From this place, you have in your dreams, in your night, in your sleep, you feel like a distant sense of encouragement. It feels divine. It feels, like you've caught Malchus's attention ever so slightly, and he's given you the like thumbs up.
Okay.
It's just a real gentle, like, good on you, mate. The god of chaos and humans.
In the dream world, I'll pull out the wooden knife and I'll proudly show it off.
Wonderful. All right. Well, the next morning comes. And my question for you is this journey you're undertaking. You've got tons of time. You're not on a deadline. I mean, the war is going to continue. They need ships eventually, but you're not on a tight deadline. Now that you've gotten a note and you've discovered some things, is your approach to take the things that you found and head back to civilization and sort them out? Or are you going to keep going deeper into the forest looking for more stuff? What is our method?
Malchus clearly had me come in here for a reason, and I doubt the reason was to pick up this scroll, so I plan to continue on. So I'll spend the day searching the remaining trees I haven't looked into yet.
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as I have visited every tree, I will continue on my way.
All right. Well, you visit the trees. You walk up and down them. You see no new things anywhere. It's a big place with secrets. Probably haven't found them all. It might take you weeks to find anything else. So off we go.
Off we go.
Bring ourselves back to our map and see what our next event is.
I'll on my map, I'll actually just do it here. I'll mark a big X and write down Elven Village.
Lovely.
Would you like to draw it, or I'll put a big X wherever I think it is here?
You can put a big X wherever you think it is. That
All
sounds
right.
great.
North side of the river?
South side of the river.
South. All right. Right here.
Okay.
Right.
We
I
can-
continue on my way towards Wostrin.
Mm-hmm. Today, you will come across another one of these injured animals. This one is not a doe like it was before. This time, you're coming across, what do you call that? Badger. They're about yay big, maybe 20 pounds or so. Typically, badgers are pretty bold and ferocious creatures who don't take nothing, or who don't take no crap. But this one seems to be sick or injured or something. It's kind of like limping itself along, and it sees you and it starts to growl and like does its best to run towards you in an aggressive, threatening manner, and then it just like collapses on the ground, just out of energy, panting.
Oh, well, while it was charging me, I had my Holy Avenger ready, but on seeing the pathetic beast just collapse, I decided to not cause it more injury. I think about whether or not the group of the fourth expedition, if they made it this far, or if it was before this.
This is about the area where they were exploring. It was 3 days down. You just had your third night. You might be going a little bit at a slightly different pace. Like you stopped to explore the elven village, but you're also traveling by yourself. So this is in that zone, that vague zone.
Well, I will know that it's here where danger. Well, they didn't get attacked here, but I will continuously. I'm on my guard, but expecting some sort of horrific undead presence here. But I'll be on my way.
All right, but we ignore the badger. We don't care about the badger.
Nah.
All right. Well, I think we've actually reached the end of the materials that I prepared for our first session. It went much faster than I expected, but here we are at the end of our first session already somehow. And I think we're just going to end it here. We will be back, I believe, next week.
Very good. Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, thanks to everybody for watching. And we'll be back next week. Bye-bye.
This is a great way to make me think I missed something on the badger. Oh no.